Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. We're getting close. We're so close to the start of football. You got youth football starting up. You want to go ahead and give us the rundown on that?
Yeah, first year since the original start to my coaching career. Starting back this fall where it all began, and taking on first and second grade flag, and just trying to get the odds and ends things put together because we got equipment distribution on Thursday.
Now, whenever you're teaching these young guys, do you do the drills yourself?
Well, yeah, you got to just show how awesome you are. No, I mean, some of it is just because, like, the really nerdy side of it is like some kids may be visual learners, so you need to be able to like show them what they need to do so they can see it for themselves. You have your auditory kids, you're explaining it, and then there's the hands-on learners that are just physically complete participating. So you hit all those different styles of learning.
I still remember one of my buddy's dad coached us like basketball or something. And one practice, like I don't remember anything like about the season or anything. I just remember one practice he like lost it. And he was like, what the hell? I'll show you guys how to do it. It's not that hard. And he started to do the push-ups. And then he started to run like the suicides or whatever they're called now. Probably they have a safer name where you like run up and down the court. And I remember just sitting there and like looking around at other players. And they're like all like intently watching this dude like work out. And I was thinking like, this is perfect. Now I don't have to do it, right? Like, I don't care if you're going to have a meltdown. Like I want to run these suicides. Like, hell no, bro. I'll let you do it. Then at the end, he like did a couple layups. And I'm like, all right, awesome. And we had to be elementary school. So whatever age I'd be, probably like what you're teaching with flag. So you should just do that. Have a meltdown and give these kids a memory that they'll remember forever. Like, remember that coach? He was like crazy. He like freaked out and then started running sprints.
Well, no, because I'm almost certain if at this age group, it's probably similar to T-ball where you'll just have like 90% of the parents just chilling out, enjoying themselves while the last of the Mohicans is running wild on the field.
That's the one thing where I saw like every coach like with T-ball and stuff is always like, hey, yeah, we need extra coaches. And then no one signed up. And then like the first practice, I'm like, well, I guess I should like kind of go and see if I should help out, you know? There were 10 dads at practice. And then they're like, you sticking around too? I'm like, no. Like, bros, if there's 10 of you, I'm not staying here. I was only here because I thought there was going to be no one. So then I left and then it kind of whittled down to like 5 dads helping. And the team picture is like hilarious because it's like 5 dads and then like 10 kids. It's like almost all the dads are there on the coach. So it's like, all right, awesome. But at that point, if all the parents are just kind of hanging out, like tailgating, then maybe they just need to get out of the house, right?
Well, and I feel like with the youth stuff, like the parents are kind of stuck because first and second grade, like this is the youngest that I've coached football. When I was starting, like the original start was 4th grade, and when I started on the coaching side was 3rd. So like this is really a change as far as the flag program, and it's been in a really good place for a while now with starting that pipeline and getting kids interested.
And then how many teams in the area do you guys have in your league or whatever?
I should know that off the top, but there's pretty many, and we have 7 weeks and then playoffs in October.
Yeah, I think that's how long it runs down here, and practice starts next week too. I think for the youth football and cheerleading and stuff. Or no, maybe it's the week after. I think it's the week after that it starts.
But the thing that's crazy is last year I went because my daughter was cheering, and it was like every game was on the road. So now this year we have like almost all home games. And so then like it becomes trying to help the other programs. Like you have like assigned game duties too, that people are responsible for stuff.
It's like insane down here because it's like, oh yeah, you're in the bigger district. You guys got to play Durham and Chapel Hill. It's like you're driving like an hour and a half. It's like, why? Why am I doing this? Like, you can't like just chalk it down and have like a little bit smaller area so you don't have to drive as far. Like, why have like one gigantic team instead of like having 3 normal sized ones? You know? Because like some of the kids, like, you know, they're not really getting any play time. Or even like for like even like swimming and stuff, I know it's like different, but it's like some of these kids are never competing on like the top line. So if you had like a little bit smaller of an area, you could probably have a couple more meets. The meets would then be faster because you're not having like 300 kids swim for no reason. Because like of course with youth you're not going to do only counting heats because then only so many people would, like the same swimmers would swim every race, you know, or whatever the league rules are. But I think that's just like the way things are going. Give it a bigger area, and I wonder if they're just anticipating like a smaller decline now. Of like, yeah, we've been losing people, so we're just doing it bigger areas now. Used to do it because I always hear people be like, yeah, this used to be our own neighborhood. We'd all have our own team. It's like now we're playing with the 10 teams that we used to play against. We're all the same team. And I'm like, awesome. And even my high school growing up, like we had our own Pee-wee team. And then by the time I went to high school, like my pap would be like, yeah, those are all different high schools back when I was there. And now it was like, yeah, all 3 of our rival schools and us, like 4 schools together now make one. And so like you're playing youth sports against all the ones that are now part of your high school.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's only going to keep continuing to happen. But I don't know, because like at some point, do they just cut funding? Even down here with like the boom, they were talking about like, oh yeah, some of the schools, like they just don't have the enrollment increase that they thought they were going to have. And I'm like, there's so many new houses. What are you talking about? Like there has to be some type of increase. Unless they're just not bringing kids in. I don't know.
I almost feel like we're creating, and I don't know what the right answer to it is, but I feel like we're creating somewhat of an issue because the age keeps getting lowered and lowered and lowered to try to get kids interested more in playing. But then even within some of these leagues, and I kind of noticed this in T-ball, where you had some of the kids that were so immature that you really couldn't do much with them. And then you had some of the kids that were a little bit maybe older or a little bit more mature that like were almost ready for that next step, that like you could probably coach more of the situational aspects of the game. And I think that's where coaching is getting much more challenging, because you got to try to find that happy medium between kids that likely are trying to play for the exposure and to try to see if they're interested, compared to kids that really it's their thing and they want to be pushed. So like trying to find that balance between both.
And practice time keeps going like over the top, where it's like, yeah, I thought you played this sport. It's like, yeah, I'm on 3 travel teams for 3 different sports. It's like, you're playing 3 sports year round? Like, how are you not burnt out or tired? And then they hit high school and guess what? They are. Right? Like if you're an 8-year-old and you're on 3 travel teams for 3 different sports and regular season, I'm like, that's a little bit much. Like, how are you not like tired? One of the dads that I talked to, he's like saying that one of the kids in their neighborhood wakes up at 5:30 to get his like workouts in, and it takes him like till 8:30, like when school starts, for him to finally be done. He does it every day. I'm like, every day? Like, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, at some point, if you don't get a scholarship, like, are you going to look back at that time and be like, yeah, I was kind of wasting my time? It's like, because like, yeah, I can throw a mean lacrosse, you know, or like play baseball. Like, when's the last time I swung a baseball bat, you know? Did I need to put in all those reps? Probably not. Right? Because it's really the ultimate goal is like for college, get money for college, right? I think for a lot of kids, if you don't have that, or I mean, you're playing for the love of the game, then like I always joke about like adult leagues and stuff, but people still play at that time. I don't know.
But I think there's some of that too, where it's like I can be that guy, and you just don't realize. Like I think more people are becoming aware because of the availability of camps and the social media exposure. But I think there is still a little bit of the just not understanding what it takes.
Yeah, and I see like a lot of parents that kind of still push the kids, even though like the kid doesn't have what it takes, and you're like, like will they get that exposure? Or like one thing I've heard is like a lot of kids, they get that scholarship or whatever, and then the next year they're transferring. So it's almost like that didn't work out at all then, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're transferring and like, I'm not going to play XYZ sport at the new school. It's like, did you get cut? Did you not make it? Like, what happened there? I'm always curious. No one ever like asks the hard hitting questions, But I'm sure it's around with NIL stuff that could be coming back. But before we get into the NIL type stuff, let's talk about NFL contracts. Justin Herbert signed a 5-year deal, which to me was kind of like a ridiculous number. It's like 133 in full guarantees, and then the total would be $262.5 million. Just a crazy contract that he's following other quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson as like the big time money makers. I think would he be the highest? I think he is the highest a little bit. I don't know about the guarantee though, because his guarantee seems a lot lower, and he only has 193 in injury guarantees. But out of those 3 quarterbacks, I'm still crazy that this year all 3 of them signed I think 5-year deals. With like Joe Burrow coming up next. Because wouldn't Joe Burrow's be next year, maybe?
Well, yeah, and there was speculation that Herbert was going to hold out so that Burrow would sign his contract first and then negotiate for more money out based off of that.
But to me, what leverage does Herbert have? As a starter, he's 25-24, right? Yeah, he beat Andrew Luck's record of like top quarterbacks first 3 NFL seasons, but Andrew Luck's career fizzled. You can say injuries or whatever, but who cares if you can't get the wins? Like Burrow already had his team play in a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So he was close. Herbert hasn't done shit. Right?
Well, that always intrigues me, like, because from a fantasy perspective, it seems like they put up a lot of points, but it's like it doesn't translate to wins.
Oh yeah, that's my boy Eckler, baby, and it does translate to fantasy wins, Matt, and championships in fantasy, if you remember right. And Herbert's not getting his deal. I didn't have him on my team, so I don't know. I know that whoever had him didn't win a championship, so maybe he needs to focus on getting some wins done. But like same with Lamar Jackson. I mean, Hurts was close. So if I was going to pick, any young quarterback that I'm going to maybe sign to that extension, I would have picked Burrow and Hurts. Right? 2 guys that was able to get their teams close. Anyone could throw up stats and be a stats jockey. Like Herbert and like Peyton Manning early in his career, right? Awesome. People were like, oh yeah, I'd love to have early Peyton Manning. I'm like, would you? Would you like to have a guy that just chokes and throws for a bunch of stats? Like, awesome. Is that what you want? Because I'd rather have a winner. I'd rather have a Tom Brady. That people are like, is this guy even? He's a joke. Like they were blaming all his success on Belichick. Remember, they said Tom Brady wasn't even good. I'd rather have that guy that's winning championships than a guy that's out there throwing around. Everyone talks about how great he is, and he never wins. Right? I'm hearing all this stuff about Aaron Rodgers like coming back, being awesome. He has the 1 Super Bowl. If the Jets were to win the Super Bowl, to me, that would be bigger than the miracle on ice. Right? I know they're bringing a lot of guys back, but there's like no way an old Aaron Rodgers like revives his career and wins the Super Bowl, right? Is there?
I think there's a possibility.
A possibility. That's not going to happen. They play in the gauntlet that's the AFC. He would have to go out and like just win all these extra games and like just be lucky. It's just not going to happen. People are betting on them. They were what, worst? They'd be like one of the best, worst to first teams of all time. They were saying. At least that's what I saw in one of the articles that they were talking about, and I thought, is it really that big of a deal? Like, what? Like, I don't really care what Aaron Rodgers is up to, and yeah, he's showing up to camps and like helping out his team. He should have been doing that the entire time. That's kind of his job. It's like the old Ben Roethlisberger. He's like comes back and he's like, yeah, I didn't really want Pickett to be good, so I decided not to try hard either myself. It's like, awesome, Ben. Great team atmosphere you created, buddy. That's why your teams never went anywhere. Then Antonio Brown, he's like, somehow Antonio Brown is staying in the news, and people are saying like he could have been the best of all time. Maybe he should have did something else. And I'm like, how long is it going to take for him to fall off? Right? Tom Brady's out. He's dating models or whatever and meeting them at hotels, doing car commercials about Love Hurts. Did you see that one?
No.
I was like, it's the new one, the Hertz like car rental one. He yells out that he loves Hertz, but he says love Hertz instead or whatever. Because like, of course, he just went through a divorce, Matt. It's hard dating models all day, and then waiting for Fox to pay you what $50 million or something crazy. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'd rather have a guy that wins. Not a guy that signs like a big time contract that's barely over 500. I don't care how many stats you have. If people are always getting hurt, how? Like something has to be wrong. Either your trainers suck, your scheme is putting dudes in bad positions where they're taking shots that they shouldn't take, or something else. Right? Your training's wrong. Like your training's wrong. Maybe you're not playing it safe. You're not playing smart. You're taking bad hits. I don't know. But it seems like some players always get hurt and some teams always get hurt. And then one trainer can come in and then guess what? No one's getting hurt. Like it reminded me of what was the team that was always having, was it ACL injuries? Was it the Ravens? It's like one of those teams was always having ACL injuries and then miraculously they changed their training to like stop running so hard and they haven't had like really any since. It's like, oh, great work, guys. Like this is your billions of dollars. Like maybe don't run and like you just spray deer antler spray after getting hurt. Then you might be able to come back one time from that and win a Super Bowl, but you can't do that every year. I don't know. Like can Ray Lewis do it all the time? No. So I want to see guys sign contracts that win. They're talking about Jordan Love this year. They're saying Packers, it might be rough. It's like it's a new year. We have a lot of youth. It's like, no, that should be a fun year. You don't know what to expect. He could come out, win some games. He can come out and lose some games. They're comparing him to like Aaron Rodgers. He has one start. Aaron Rodgers had 0 at the same time. Otherwise, I think their timeline for careers like lined up. Aaron Rodgers went like 6-10 in his first year. If Love comes in with this team and so, like that, they were like what? Garbage last year to start the year. If he comes in and they come out like hot or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, why not go with them? Right? Because if everyone keeps shitting on the quarterback, maybe he'll be good. And you can just sign him for cheap, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the Tom Brady model. How many years when Tom Brady first started did they start winning the Super Bowls and everyone was like, that was a miracle. That should never have happened. Like that's garbage. He sucks. And then he kept doing it. And meanwhile, they weren't paying him until he had it like done it a handful of times, and they almost had the undefeated year. And then all of a sudden, it kind of flipped to being like, "Hey, maybe Tom Brady is actually pretty good." And so that's where like the Packers are at right now, where the NFC kind of sucks. All the quarterbacks kind of went to the AFC, so you could have a scenario where you fluster with the younger quarterback. Like even Jalen Hurts, people aren't sure of him, but they were just in the Super Bowl and they almost won it. And if he comes back and they do win it because he doesn't have that much competition, who cares about the AFC having the better stats, guys? Like, absolutely no one would care, right? I know I wouldn't. If the Packers were like, oh yeah, they're bumbling through, and then they pull a Giants and they have a crappy record and they win the Super Bowl, that's way better than losing the Super Bowl or not winning shit, right? Or going like 13-3 and flaming out the second weekend. But having a guy win the MVP, like, I don't care about the MVPs. Dude, I've never seen a guy walk around with an NFL team's t-shirt that lists all their individual player MVPs on it. I've seen dudes wear Super Bowl t-shirts and sweatshirts. I've never seen a guy like wear an Aaron Rodgers jersey that says like NFL MVP on it. Never. Have you?
No.
Because people wear the jerseys. They don't wear like, even I don't even have like fake Tom Brady replica rings I wear around, right? That'd be something I would do. But no one takes it that far. That's what I want. Like, even like coming back through and how hard it is for some of these contracts, the running backs get together. Because Saquon Barkley was going to sit out. A bunch of running backs are going to sit out. They all get together on a Zoom call, Matt. They're going to start talking business. First off, how is that not like some type of collusion for like contracts, right? That they're all saying, oh, let's just all hold out until we get paid more as a position group. Like, awesome. Is that like some type of other like, I don't even know. Like, what are they doing there? Forming their own like labor group? I don't know. But how are you also going to make...
They just don't have any extra bargaining power.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. How are they going to like make this happen? Because like quarterbacks, yeah, they're getting paid more. They're winning. And it's shown that if you have a bad quarterback, your team might most likely is going to suck. Where like a running back, they're shown that you can just plug and play anybody. So you really have no bargaining power unless you're like a Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey type that's kind of doing it all. Le'Veon Bell. Even then it's hard to get a big time contract. Well, McCaffrey's always injured, right? So like, awesome. But like Le'Veon Bell kind of broke the system, I think. He was like the last great hope for running backs because he did it all. And the Steelers absolutely fell off a cliff when he left. But it was kind of like not the point where anyone cared. Right? Like the Steelers were kind of like, oh, we'll just keep drafting guys, right? Remember Willie Parker? Awesome. We got him cheap, baby. That's like what the motto of the Steelers is, right? They like call out like a Willie Parker guy that just randomly hit, right?
Yeah.
So I think like a lot of teams are like, yeah, Le'Veon Bell, kind of like a magic player like that no one really thought would take off. Same with like Antonio Brown. He wasn't really hyped to coming in as a wide receiver. So I think a lot of teams feel like we can just take guys and we can develop them. Because for a while there, the Steelers were taking wide receivers like Mike Wallace and a bunch of other guys, Antonio Brown. And it just seemed like they were able to draft them and develop them with Ben. And then they would go elsewhere and fizzle out. So it made it seem like the Steelers were the ones, and Ben Roethlisberger were the ones that elevated some of these guys. But with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, I think that broke the system. They didn't have guys to replace them. And even guys like Juju physically fumbled the ball and lost games. Right?
Yeah.
Like they physically hurt the team where any other player that's just average, that doesn't happen to them. So I don't know like what the running backs can do to get more money. But to me, it's like, I think I sent you a list of like the top paid like positions. I was surprised tight ends were kind of low. Because like guys like Kelsey, you would think there would be one top tight end that's like making big time money. But the running back ones, I think, was it Peterson? Adrian Peterson made the most, something like that. But like longevity is the number one key. And a lot of running backs don't have it. And whenever you're taking hits by running up the middle, like Derrick Henry, no offense to my boy, but like I'm ready to cut him at any time in fantasy. Same with like my other guy, David Johnson. Like I've talked about how having a dynamic running back is key to winning your fantasy championship. But you need to be able to have a guy that's young and pick a guy that's going to be hot, right? Like I picked Eckler for low last year just because I knew he had some good seasons and I thought Herbert has to take the jump. And then he kind of they didn't do good. Like you said, how are they putting up these numbers when they're not winning? I don't know, but I'll take it. So like that's kind of the scenario you need for running backs. I don't think any big time running back has been on a winning team.
But I think like the quarterback play at this point has to be better. But I feel like if you really want to go deep into the playoffs, you have to be able to have some at least average running back on your squad to make the thing function.
And average is all you need. Because like let's look. Top NFL running backs coming into the year. This looks like it's 8. Christian McCaffrey hasn't done shit. Nick Chubb hasn't done shit. Josh Jacobs hasn't done shit. Tony Pollard hasn't done shit. Derrick Henry, nada. Saquon Barkley, nada. Eckler, nada. Jonathan Taylor, nada. Nothing. None of the top 8 running backs have done anything in the playoffs.
But I think that with all those running backs that you named, they cover the big 3. They're involved in the pass protection. They're catching passes out of the backfield, and they're involved in the run game, obviously. So combining those 3, I think where they may have a leg to stand on is to try to leverage if the receivers are making more money and they're having so many attempts at completions that maybe they can go back to the association and try to appeal for more, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to be the case. I think, like, over time, you're going to have those guys that are going to make a lot more money, but at the same time, not everyone's going to be paid the same amounts. That's not realistic.
Well, I'm looking through the list. Like, I don't even remember any of these big time running backs making big time playoff impacts. Right? Because, like, I'm looking at the thing now and they're talking about, oh, yeah, it's broken. But it's like, who was the guy that, like, made the runs? I remember, like, with the Jets, they had that Iowa running back, Sean Green, I think. For the 1 year, he randomly came in. This was like a Rex Ryan year, I think. Maybe Sanchez.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
He came into one playoff game and had, like, a hell of a game. And, like, all these top running backs, I don't remember them having that same of impact in the playoffs, right? To where I can sit back and think and be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy running wild. That was awesome. Like, it was one game. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but it was in the playoffs. He made an impact. I can remember, like, some wide receivers going ham and, like, some quarterbacks, like, watching, like, Mahomes do his thing. And, like, I remember Kelsey, like, balling out some games. Even, like, Gronk, where it's like, oh, they're just keen on Gronk and waiting for him to just go crazy. Who was the other one? Who was the one for the Falcons Super Bowl? Was it Welker? Who's the one that made that crazy catch? Or was it Edelman? Like, the Patriots had, like, some guys that just showed up.
Edelman.
But I don't remember, like, any running backs from the Patriots being like, oh, thank God they had that running back, right?
But when they really started to hit their stride, they signed Corey Dillon and got...
That's 20 years ago, bro.
Well, yeah, that's how long it's been since they've won a Super Bowl, you turd.
Who? Patriots?
Yes.
Hasn't been 20 years, man. Tom Brady left them 4 years ago or whatever.
Well, I mean, even look at Leonard Fournette.
We're not talking boat years here, Matt.
But look at what Leonard Fournette did, too. Like, he had those years where he was on the Jags and they kind of ping-ponged around. But when he got to Tampa, he closed out the Super Bowl for him with his runs. Like, I'm not saying that I think the days of having the running backs where you load them up with 40 carries and they just slam the rock, like, I don't think that you're going to have that type of of player because they don't last. They're not durable to make it through that type of pounding. And so it's going to affect their value because if you pay those guys and you're trying to get as many touches out of them as you can, they end up getting banged up along the way. So it's trying to keep them healthy while at the same time getting what you need from them.
All right, so I looked up like the top playoff performances, and your guy, Leonard Fournette, is one of the only 2 running backs on this list. And just to show you what the discrepancy is, his big-time impact for the first game was 132 yards. Game 2 was 107. And then he had 74 in the championship game. And then like 135. So like he was almost over 100 in every single time. But he had 4 touchdowns in the 4 playoff games. That was like his impact, which I think a lot of people would consider like standard running back games, right? Close to 100 yards and whatever. And then the only other one was Sony Michel from the Patriots, to whatever. He scored 6 times that playoff season. The only other running back in the Super Bowl era to have more touchdowns was Terrell Davis in 1997. So, like, you're playing 4 games or so, right? Maybe he only played 3, but like Fournette played 4. To me, getting a touchdown in each game isn't top money-making like performance. It just isn't. And none of these guys are. Like these guys, like Sonny Michel, how many people would list him in their list of top running backs of the last decade? 0 people. How many people would have Fournette there? 0 people again. And the crazy thing is, the running back or the wide receiver that has the most is Larry Fitzgerald. He had 7. So Terrell Davis had the most. I guess non-quarterbacks, right? So Terrell Davis had 8. Larry Fitzgerald had 7. But like Terrell Davis that year was crazy. He like carried the team. That was the first Super Bowl they had, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, it was either first or second. I can't remember. They had back-to-backs, didn't they? But the rest of the guys, other than like Von Miller and his fumbles, that one seat, like the Peyton Manning's rubber arm year, right? It's like, how did he even win that Super Bowl? Like dead arming it 5 yards down the field. And then the rest of them are like quarterbacks other than Ray Lewis. And what's this one? Sean Murphy bunting when he had his 3 interceptions or something. Yeah. So how many he had? It doesn't tell me the total, of course. But he had a touchdown and 3 interceptions at least. So awesome, right? This guy had almost as many interceptions as Leonard Fournette had touchdowns. And he's on the defense, right? All 3 of his interceptions led to touchdowns because he probably almost ran them back. So he's close to having more of an impact on defense than any running back has had ever, right? Other than Terrell Davis's monster year. So that's what I don't get. Like awesome for fantasy and stuff. Because like even when I was searching for that list, I only wanted running back performances. Because I was looking for like Terrell Davis. I wanted to see when the last impact running back was. Every article is about their impact in fantasy playoffs, which just shows you that they don't have any impact in the real playoffs. Right? No one's riding their workhorse running back anymore. They're just not. So don't pay them. I don't care. Right? Were there any other contracts that I missed you want to talk about? I had Trevon Diggs too. He signed for $97 million for 5 years. And I think that's a big move for Dallas. But again, now is the Cowboys' time. I don't know what they can do. They're kind of like in a weird mess where they're not going young like the Packers. But the NFC is wide open. That they shouldn't be letting the Eagles take it over. And I feel like they've already lost to the Eagles. So they're like closer to a full rebuild for me. So then why try to do this Diggs thing? right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're close to a Super Bowl. And it's not like they had like the Tony Romo years where it seemed like they were close. Let's make sure we keep Pro Bowlers around. The NFC's more wide open now because, like, for whatever reason, like Tom Brady retired and other things. So it's like, all right, Aaron Rodgers left, Drew Brees is gone. Like, all things that kind of seem to hinder the Cowboys for whatever reason. And it's like, no, we just don't have the team, and we're going to watch the Eagles, one of the teams that we hate, just be better than us. Has to hurt the Cowboys fans. Has to hurt them. Like, I don't think Dak Prescott is the guy. I think injuries kind of ruined his career, right? Where do they go? Like, give him another year or two and try to push it out with the Eagles, but I would almost have wished for almost like a full rebuild from them. We'll see what happens, though. It is open. The NFC's wide open. I would hate to see an Eagles-Cowboys NFC championship, though. That would really hurt me. I wouldn't like that at all, would you?
Would not be good.
No. The only other ones would be like the 49ers. The circle of hate for me in the NFC now. But the 49ers have their own issues with they let Garoppolo go. He got cleared, didn't he? By the Raiders?
I think
I saw that, which kind of puts the rumors to rest about Tom Brady. But that was saying that Garoppolo never got cleared. What if Garoppolo gets hurt again? And then it opens the door. I don't think if that happens, anyone would be about Tom Brady coming back. So I'm going to keep that window open. Because remember they kept saying, Gronk's not coming back this year. And then he always came back, it seemed like. So now Tom Brady, I'm waiting for him to come back as the Raiders hero. And if he wins the Raiders Super Bowl and then goes into broadcasting, they'll just rename the Madden football game the Brady. Right? That's why they picked him. He won that one Raiders Super Bowl, right? John Madden. And then Tom Brady will be making way more money as a broadcaster than John Madden ever made. Maybe, was it Sega? Who made the other football game? ESPN. I think it was Sega. Maybe it's 2K. Maybe they'll bring their football game back and they'll have a Tom Brady version versus John Madden, and we'll have a real competition for football video games for the first time in forever. Because I think the exclusivity contract ended. But maybe I'm wrong. Anything else you want to talk about for the NFL?
No, I don't think there's anything else.
I keep extending it. Nyheim Hines was involved in a jet ski accident. Hurt his knee. They didn't really say how, but he's out for the year. Which to me, like, come on. It's like the, what was that baseball player that wrecked his boat and died? It's like, guys, what are you doing? Like, you have your entire life to be riding jet skis. Now, running backs are complaining about not being able to get paid as much as other guys, and you're hurting yourself doing jet ski stuff?
Yep.
Like, come on. I don't even know, like, I mean, have fun. Do your thing. You can get hurt doing anything. Could have been a car accident, like anything. And it's just unfortunate that it's an accident. But like some things, other ones, weren't there like contracts that specifically said like no jet skis, no motorcycles, no this, no quads, or like whatever, right? So like, if you're making that much money, your thing should only be about working out and taking care of yourself. Because in however many years, running backs have shorter careers anyway. So it might only be 5 years, right? You'll still be 25 or 27, whatever. Go jet skiing then. Hell, do ripped jet skiing all the time on Instagram. You probably make more money on the side. But just don't get hurt and then ruin your entire career, because it sucks. It sucks to see it. So like even young kids, like you hear about like some kids like having accidents and stuff, doing risky things. It's always like, come on. Like take care of yourself first. And then, because like your pay is 100% tied to you staying healthy. in the NFL. And of course, performing, number 2. But the top thing is playing healthy. Because you're going to be a better performer if you're healthy. You're going to have a longer career if you stay healthy. And if you're outside getting hurt, wrecking your motorcycle into vans. Ben Roethlisberger style, right? One could say, was he ever the same after that? And of course, he cleaned up his off-the-field stuff pretty fast after his first couple years in the league. Because he probably realized, what the hell am I doing? So I hate to see anyone get injured. And it was like, sounded like a freak accident, which you hate to see. Because like, yeah, maybe you want to do some fun stuff. Like I wouldn't even do whitewater rafting. Anything risky like that, where any weird situation where you hit a rock or something that you're not expecting, you flip a little bit and tear a muscle. It's just unfortunate. And I hate to hear it. But that's the last NFL thing I had. Do you have anything else?
Just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think you'd brought up Roethlisberger, and I think the reason he cleaned up his act as quick as he did was because at that time there was such a veteran presence of decent people in the Steelers locker room that were able to get to him and be like, can you please stop being an asshole so that we can win the Super Bowl? I think if he was going through at the same time as like some of the players now, I almost think he'd probably be doing more reckless stuff and end up with more injuries.
I thought you were going to say it's because he got married.
Well, it could have been that he was married. Marriage will do that to you.
Cause more craziness. Let's see. It is the World Cup Women's this year. Did you know that?
I did.
Well, remember a couple weeks ago I said I thought it was coming up this year, but it must be 2024 because I looked it up. Man, I am seeing barely anything on the Women's World Cup. So the only reason I knew it was going on is because I was trying to sign up to see if I could get men's tickets for 2026 or whenever that one is, right? And they were like, I got an email. It was like, hey, surprise, World Cup, like lock it in. And I was like, holy shit, am I on the list? Like to get some tickets. I went in and it was like, lock in your viewership for Women's World Cup 2023. And I thought, this can't be right. I searched it on the show to see. I typed in Women's World Cup 2023 and it didn't come up. And so I tried again over the weekend and it takes you to a Wikipedia page of the history of the Women's World Cup. And then really small, there was one link that you could click, but it's not showing in search results. I look on ESPN. Is it showing in the top? No. So, it's in the second menu. So right now, ESPN has at the top, UFC 291, International Soccer Friendlies, The Ultimate Fighter Season 31, Major League Baseball. This is even more embarrassing. Little League Softball, Regionals. TBT, the basketball thing, I don't know what the hell that is. And then some more MLB stuff. Underneath that, Women's World Cup. So underneath Little League Softball Regionals, Matt, which I didn't even know there was a Little League Softball. Did you?
No.
So you're telling me that ESPN has to promote Little League Softball ahead of Women's World Cup. I look through the top headlines, right? Do you think I see some Women's World Cup stuff? I have no idea how the women are doing. I look in here, though. What's my soccer news? Oh, Messi scored 2 goals for Miami. Awesome. Great. Didn't even know he was in Miami. But apparently he's there. Still don't know how the women did. I click on the soccer menu. Women's World Cup is number 2. So you specifically have to click on that. If you just click on soccer, it talks about Messi, some more Messi articles, some other Harry Kane thing. I think he's like an English guy, isn't he? And then finally, the third link is Women's World Cup. They play Netherlands on Wednesday. No promotion. Absolutely none. I feel like in the past years, there was more promotion. Maybe it's the political stuff. they were doing where people just don't care anymore and they've tuned out. But I remember the hype from like, I'm trying to think what year that would have been, around 15, 16 maybe, where they had watch parties and all kinds of stuff. That's not happening down here in North Carolina at all. Right? And so this is supposed to be one of the hot grounds for women's soccer with like UNC and Duke down here. Nothing. I'm very shocked because, like I said, I think that was around that same time when I had first moved to the Raleigh area, where they were having Women's World Cup watch parties and things. And I haven't seen or heard anything about it. I think they already played a game last week. And so there's nothing going on. It just seems really, really weird to me. They're like, there's no way that Messi playing in Miami, at least from a national perspective, should be hyped up more than the Women's World Cup. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't get it.
Although I did see with him going to Miami that the ticket prices went like absolutely through the roof. It was like $25 a ticket pre to like $450 once he signed.
It goes back to my football comment with the Super Bowl. He just won the World Cup, didn't he? If he doesn't win that, I guarantee no one would give two shits about him. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Beckham came here. He didn't win anything. People like talked about it because his girlfriend was in Spice Girls, wasn't she? So it's like, all right, cool. She's one of the Spices, I think. So no one really cared about soccer. So Messi coming off a World Cup and then coming to the United States, I think is a big deal because people in the United States want to win the World Cup. So maybe him playing around here will help up the game of some of our guys, you know? Where women, it's like, well, they really have to fight back. And now they really need to win to get like their respect back. And it's like, well, like you spend 4 years like hurting your image, doing like weird stuff instead of like, I don't know, were they like boycotting about their pay and stuff like that? And
they're trying to argue more about pay, and they were arguing like there was a lot of different things that they were mad about.
But it's going to, and that's why I brought it up, because it's going to tie right into the NIL stuff, which I'm talking about because my boy Jim Harbaugh, he's facing a 4-game suspension, Matt, because he bought that cheeseburger last year that everyone thought was a joke. Now they're talking about he's going to be suspended for 4 games to start the year, which is one of the reasons why, I think we might have talked about this before, but it was one of the reasons why he had flirted with the NFL, because the NCAA had talked about suspending him, and he said, like, that's complete bullshit. Like, Tennessee is paying players with their coach. Should have been what? Lack of institutional control, right? The number one killer of programs. And their AD comes out and he's crying, saying, like, these kids didn't really get impacted. I mean, from a term of recruiting, no one can negative recruit against Harbaugh for this. Like, can you imagine, like, you're down between Ohio State and Michigan, and they're like, yeah, but did you see that when Michigan's coach, like, he doesn't follow the rules, man. He was giving guys extra cheeseburgers. In no player's mind is that going to be a negative, right? You're telling me coach went above and beyond what he's supposed to do and bought us some cheeseburgers without checking with the NCAA first? Like, shit, I can't sign there now. Damn, why didn't I find about this sooner? He should have definitely called the NCAA up first and seen if he could have bought me a cheeseburger. Like when I was on campus, because wasn't it 2 recruits that showed up unexpectedly? And Harbaugh's like, well, hey, shit, you guys want to go grab some burgers? And then he like didn't have the receipt. So he like said that he like lied about it. And was like, I don't remember. Or they said he lied about it. But a guy not remembering if he's bought some guy some hamburgers, that seems realistic, right?
Yeah.
So they make it seem like he lied about it. Do you know where you ate last week, Matt?
No.
No one does. I mean, unless you have like a fitness thing, you're like really tracking what you're eating. But like, heck, you go with some friends. Sometimes you like pick up the tab or whatever. Do people just remember like 2 years ago? Like, remember when you picked up that tab? Yeah, you weren't supposed to do that for so-and-so because he's on a different payroll. It's like, shit, I guess I didn't know. Who should I have called to figure that out? And it's just one of the things where with the NIL, stuff coming. The NCAA, I don't know how they're supposed to police all this NIL stuff. They put another thing up where the government's kind of trying to get involved. What did they say with the new thing? It's going to be a new PASS Act to promote or to protect athletes. Because did you see some of the testimony from this, Matt? One of the girls signed a contract. I forget who it was, a women's soccer player or something, for some college, where they were supposed to pay her $3,000. She had to then pay them back $1,500 of it after she got the check, which is a classic scam, right? So they send her a check for $3,000. She cashes it, sends them back $1,500 as part of like her payment or whatever. The check then bounces a week later. So she's in the hole $1,500 because she sent them the money back. And I'm like, how is that an NIL problem? That seems like the college should have stepped in and have been like promoting fraud type stuff, right? Every student comes in and they're taught like, hey, avoid fraud stuff. If someone asks you to wire them money or they ask you to cash a check and then send them money back, it's fraud. But apparently a lot of these smaller colleges are getting hit with this type of fraud now, where people are just doing the same fraud emails about like, hey, we have a new business started. Because I mean, like I see them all the time coming through with like college emails for the class I teach, where it's like, hey, we're going to be paying extra if you want this. Just send us like a $600 check, and then, or we'll send you a $600 check. You cash it and send us like half of it back or whatever. But in reality, the check bounces, so you're just out whatever money you sent them. Because then they never contact you back, and it's like a scam check, right? It's like a fake check completely. So apparently now, this new act is supposed to protect athletes from deals like that. But it's insane.
That is insane.
It is insane. And I'm like wondering where you have coaches at Northwestern that are doing all kind of weird stuff. NCAA seems to not care at all. Buy a guy cheeseburger, they're involved, right? Northwestern has 4 lawsuits against them now. The coach that they named, one of the coaches that they named to the staff, he was supposedly participating in the hazing. And sometimes the coaches themselves had to do the hazing. They were the hazing recipients, which is like a lot of naked car washing and bear crawls, right? So like what coaches would do that? That's totally off topic, but that's in my notes here. It's like, all right, I don't understand how the NCAA is supposed to do absolutely anything. Because like in the span of 2 weeks, you have Tennessee's thing where they're paying players, they get caught, they admit it, fire the coach, cry about it, take their losses or whatever, which drops them out of the top 10 wins all time, but no other punishment. Northwestern, not really any punishment until there was more backlash and lawsuits where they actually fire their coach, keep the rest of the guys around for some reason. And then Harbaugh buying a cheeseburger, he's going to get hit with a 4-game suspension. It's all over the place. But yet these are the guys that are supposed to tell athletes what deals they can and can't take. Dumb. And that's going back to my Women's World Cup thing. You asked about equal pay. You asked about all this exposure. But from the media side, ESPN, I'm sure they're not just showing Women's World Cup lower for whatever, like their own reasons, right? They have their stuff ranked based on what people are clicking on. More people are interested in Messi playing in Miami than the Women's World Cup, so naturally it comes higher. That's just how search rankings work. So the Women's World Cup, no one's interested in it this year. It's not showing up anywhere. Right? Maybe when they get to the finals, maybe they'll bring back some watch parties and things. Maybe they will. I don't know. But as I'm saying right now is it's so dead, the hype around here, and this is supposed to be a big soccer area, that I'm very surprised. And if they're not making money, no other like smaller college program is going to be able to compete on the NIL, whether the government makes them split the money or not. Because like at some point, if you're a big time donor and you say like, yeah, I want to put 10 million into the football team, and they say, thanks, but we actually got to split it with everybody. So like that's only going to be like $100 a month for guys. It's going to be like, yeah, okay, well, I'm not going to do that then, right? I'll individually just donate to my guy that I need. Because like Miami's thing was they were making sure that everyone was getting paid, right? And the NCAA was kind of frowning on that because it was only football players. And then, of course, their women's basketball players or whatever. Remember that article about the Miami transfer girls? How that was like sickening, how they were picking out girls to like send money to.
Yeah.
For anything else, like, all right, well, what do you want them to do? Not support the women? It's like Miami couldn't do anything right.
Well, it was just like they want to try to have it so that the women's sports gets paid the same, but they're not generating the same type of revenue. Like you had that one soccer player just signed like a $700 million contract. Like that would completely fund all of the World Cup stuff for the next 25 years.
But it's the same thing because even whenever women do get the hype, like that one gymnast, what's her name, Livy or something from LSU? Is that her name?
Yeah, Olivia Dunn.
Is it Olivia or Livy? I don't know. Anyway, like she's making a ton of money, of course, right? Because she's like a like a model off the side as pure NIL. But people don't like that because it's not sports related, right? She's not making it because of her gymnast abilities. She's modeling. So at some point, is someone just going to start paying for gymnasts? Or are you going to be able to do whatever? Because like if Tom Brady comes out and he's modeling for GQ or whatever, are people going to frown upon him and say, Tom, come on, bro. GQ, that's embarrassing. You got to only do Sports Illustrated. Like absolutely no one's going to tell him that. Right? Like Tom, like GQ's off limits. Only ESPN and Sports Illustrated or whatever magazines. I don't even know if any magazines still exist out there. Right? Remember when they used to be all at the front counters? Now it's filled with snacks, dude. Slim Jims, candy bars. So, I don't know. That's my last thought on it. The NIL stuff, awesome. They're just trying to get all the states in the same order. But it's embarrassing when the NCAA is just embarrassing themselves. Texas has all these sports cars now on campus. Oh, that's fine. Extra cheeseburger. That's a big no-no. Got to be out 4 games for that. I mean, if Michigan was still winning 8 games a year or whatever, the last 2 years kind of changed things up, and this should be a senior leading team. This actually could be better for the team, right? Because like guys are playing looser. They're not like the new guys are coming in. You have like the younger coaches most likely taking over. Maybe more or heart calm plays and just being the associate head coach. Guys come in and they're just like running the score up on some other teams where in the past maybe they're playing like more conservative under Harbaugh, right? Because it's East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, I think, and Rutgers. Rutgers is at home. Rutgers sometimes plays the same type of ball, and Harbaugh like plays them close for whatever reason, probably out of respect for Schiano. But now, who knows? New coach. Maybe they're running the score up. We'll see what happens. Maybe they lose. Doesn't matter though. They lose to Rutgers at the end of the year if they're 11-1 or whatever. People are going to say, "Yeah, Harbaugh wasn't even coach of that game." Like they're in the playoffs, right?
Well, it's not like you had a powerhouse scheduled for the opening week.
Well, that's what someone said. They were saying, like, anyone making fun of Michigan's schedule, they have the exact same Power 5 opponents as how many teams are in the SEC now? 12 or only 2 SEC teams had more scheduled. So they had the exact same as like 12 of the teams or 14 of the teams, whatever it ends up being. So, and those are the only schools. There was one from the ACC that had it. I don't remember who it was, like 1 or 2 from the Big 12. Then in the SEC in Michigan. And it's like, all right, awesome. Because Michigan was just in the playoffs 2 years ago and the SEC's been winning the Natty. So if you're going to be copying someone, how about we just copy the teams that win the Natty and make the playoffs, right? I don't give a shit about playing a big-time school first week. Run the score up, keep your guys healthy. I've seen Blake Corum go down. I've seen Donovan Edwards play with a broken cast on his hand. I've seen dudes take cheap shots in the Big Ten play. We don't need another big-time opponent. We don't. Prove us wrong. Michigan's beaten Ohio State when they've stayed healthy. When in the past, when they were all banged up and was it Devin Gardner couldn't even walk down the field because he had a broken foot in the Ohio State game and they almost beat him anyway. If he was healthy, Michigan probably beats Ohio State that year. And there were a couple other years like that too. So I would rather play nobody and be healthy and win the Big Ten. And then playoffs can be whatever, but as long as you're not getting blown out, like last year Michigan wasn't blown out, as long as you're competing, and the playoffs is only going to help recruiting, and if you win a couple, 12-game playoff is only going to be more beneficial to Michigan. Some other schools, not so much, but screw the NCAA. That's all I got. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, not too much.
Any Florida State stuff you want to fill me in on?
Is there something that came up that you want to give me a burn about?
No, I actually the only thing I had written down was Jordan Addison when he was flying 140 miles per hour, right? So I didn't know if that counted as part of our ACC news since he went to USC. But did you see his excuse?
Yeah.
He had a dog emergency. Which, if you don't elaborate and just say you have a dog emergency, now I'm peaked. Did your dog die? Because it doesn't sound like it did. I would assume going that fast, the police took you in. So what happened to the dog? Or did they let you go?
I would say probably let him go once they recognized him.
Because a dog emergency, I'm just curious. I couldn't find any other details before the show. But that's all kind of I had in terms of ACC news right now. Some of the other things are talking about more expansion stuff, where San Diego State, did we talk about it, where they pretended they didn't leave? And it's almost like the George Costanza, they just show back up. They're like, hey, what are you doing here? Didn't you quit last week? It's like, nah. You thought that was serious? I was joking. So that's where right now I'm at. But we'll have more Media Day stuff for next week. So thanks again for the support. We know off-season stuff's coming to an end, so we'll have a lot more to talk about. If there's any topics you want us to hit, let us know. We'll be coming back hard with some fantasy stuff coming up soon. And we'll have some real football games. I don't think it's this weekend. I think it starts next weekend, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be coming up. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.